Alright guys, so as I was saying, Lord Dunmore was basically attempting to get to Norfolk. Okay, um, ton of loyalists here. He was safe, protected by the loyalists. Also, hopping on a ship and getting out of here if things got real bad. Well, okay, the Virginia Patriots wanted to defeat and push out the British troops because they knew that if they had that area of Norfolk, that they can continue to feed in British troops off of the ocean. They would just, send in ships from England and they would just go into Norfolk and drop them off and they would continue to come in and fight. Um, so the Patriots started to attack. The two groups clashed for the first time at Great Bridge. Okay, it wasn't the first battle per se, but it was the first time that the troops and Lord Dunmore clashed. Pretty crazy. Only lasted about a half an hour. Okay, and the the bridge was super narrow. So what ended up happening was, as the British troops were marching across the bridge to try to get to Norfolk, they could only be 6 rows of soldiers. Okay, so you see this right here? They would be coming across like this. Now, the way that the British military fought was they'd have these huge, long rows of 50 to 100 plus wide, and that they would shoot. Well, you were not able to do that on the bridge because it was so narrow. So what the colonists did, the Patriots did, is they just sat at the mouth of where they would get on that bridge, and they would just shoot them down. They would just shoot them down. The British had no chance. And if you read right here, the British surrendered, and in that half an hour, about 100 British soldiers had died, and only one Patriot soldier had been wounded, which means they didn't even kill anybody. So in a half an hour, the British, they couldn't get crossed. Okay, huge importance here at that Great Bridge battle. Why was it so important? Because this is a small little battle. Well, it led to the destruction of Norfolk, which is full of loyalists and had been used by the British as a main shipping and military port. They no longer had this port. Okay, it was taken over by the colonists. Eventually, they get another port, and that port was at Yorktown, which comes back to bite them because the colonists have Norfolk here, and then the British troops had to kind of move northward up into Yorktown, and it's kind of cool. Everything that we've talked about so far leads to that point. Okay, we're going to talk more about Armistead, Lafayette, and what he did. We're going to talk about George Washington and what he did. It kind of all is building up to that one last battle, okay, which is right here. All right, so the video is going to talk about this, but let me kind of give you an idea ahead of time, because the video kind of goes fast and it's through the History Channel, so it's kind of it's kind of more of adult. So basically, what ends up happening was the French decide to help the troops. Okay, they go over, and Benjamin Franklin goes over a few times, and eventually they agree that they're going to come help. They're going to give money, which is huge. So the King of England at the time puts Commander Clinton, his name is, in charge. Okay, Clinton is actually the head person who is fighting in the north of in the Massachusetts, the Philadelphia areas. He is fighting George Washington. Well, the King of England says, we want to start taking the South. Okay, so Clinton gets word of this and goes to the South. Okay, marches all the way down to the South, to Georgia and that area. And his second in charge is Lord Cornwallis. So he and Lord Cornwallis are, at first, they have a lot of, they take over Charlottesville. They take over areas in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. It looks pretty bad for the English, for the colony. Well, so what they do is that Cornwallis needs to try to find a port. Okay, he needs to try to find a place where he can have the troops be coming in, because again, what I just said was that Norfolk had been taken. So Yorktown is right on the water. We know that. Okay, it's actually at the very mouth of the water. Okay, of the Rappahannock. Okay, so he decides to go into Yorktown, and he also goes into the area just on the other side of it. Well, here's where it all comes into play, right? So General Washington gets word from Armistead Lafayette that Cornwallis is trying to set up camp at Yorktown. And the reason he's trying to set up camp is that once they get that port of Yorktown, the British are going to send all of these troops via ship to Yorktown to help feed in a final battle defeat of the Continental Army. Well, when Washington gets word of this from Lafayette, he then tells Lafayette, now this is the French Lafayette, about this, and the French Lafayette has the French fleet, okay, block the harbor. So the French fleet has ships all along the outside of Yorktown blocking the British from getting into Yorktown. So they're getting cut off. They're getting no more troops there. So then George Washington says they have nowhere to go. They're being blocked from the French ships out here. So he starts to march south into Yorktown. Okay, and what's happening is because the French ships are blocking the English from coming into Yorktown, and because the Continental Army is coming from the side, they have nowhere to go. They're completely surrounded, and Lord Cornwallis, they fight, and really there's no way for him to survive. He can't get any more troops in because the ships are being blocked by the French, and he can't retreat. Normally they would just retreat. They retreat and then they get their troops back together, but he's completely blocked in. Okay, and that's what this video is going to show. Now, before I start the video, I'm actually going to stop it here because the video is about 10 minutes long, and I don't want it to stop midway through. It's really cool. Okay, I don't think that Washington thought that the war would have ended in this battle. It's just everything just so happened to fall in the right place, with Armistead Lafayette getting this intelligence, with the French coming in helping us, and then Lafayette, the commander Lafayette, letting the French know, okay, the ships are coming into Yorktown. We need to have you come in and block them. Huge there. With the King of England getting involved. Okay, if the King of England would have just stayed out of it and let the British troops continue to win all these battles up in the north, who knows what would have happened. Cornwallis, General Cornwallis being put in charge. Okay, Clinton, who was actually the person that he worked with, Clinton, after Cornwallis went to Yorktown, started marching northward to go back to where he was, which put Cornwallis in charge. Well, Cornwallis actually wasn't really that qualified, and it comes back to bite the British, and they take over Cornwallis. Okay, so this is the last video that I'm going to show you today, and I'm going to pause it here and then record this last video here. It's really cool, about 10 minutes of exactly what happened that led up to the end of the war.